all of you, especially I feel like we should say longtime listener, first time caller, Fritz Graham, because oh my gosh, I'm totally destroying that. Because he comes bearing the suggestion of dollars. So let's get started with this week's version of the Yamhill Leadership Roundtable. But what I'm going to do first of all is pass this off after introductions to Howie Harkema, do a debrief from the Cooling Center Collaborative and the heat wave. But first of all, we have with us Jeffrey Clayton from First Baptist, Casey Kula, Yamhill County Commissioner. We have Fritz Graham from Senator Wyden's office. We have Mayor Scott Hill from the city of McMinnville. We have Mayor Linda Watkins from the city of Carlton. We have Councilor Kelly Menke from the city of McMinnville. We have Howie Harkema from Encompass Yamhill Valley. And we have Pauline Matoxen from everything from Encompass Yamhill to NAMI local chapter. So with that, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to pass it off to Howie. And then what we'll do after that is we'll talk to Fritz and hear about what in the infrastructure bill we might be able to make use of, and also the timing of it. These Senate and House reconciliation and all that. But without further ado, Howie Harkema.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Number one, we were able to keep 133 people plus safe across Yamhill County on the third extreme weather event. I'm going to ask Jeff to give his numbers from First Baptist. And Jeff, if you would jump in.
Sure, I'll do that. We were sort of in what an old baseball announcer used to call catbird seat, being in the county seat where there is a significant chunk of both our friends and neighbors outside who are living with the most minimal capacity to deal with and be resilient in the face of this, and also a lot of folks who are living on the third floor of an apartment with no AC or many other things like that. Folks who have more conditional, but in this case the wrong sort of single points of failure for being able to deal with this very well. We saw 122 people over 4 days. We averaged just north of, you do the math, we averaged 30 and a half people a day. I'm looking to take a photo with the half person at some point, just for, just to memorialize that. But that was significantly up from last time and much more like what we saw the first time around, part of which I think, to volley this back to you, Howie, has to do with the success of getting the word out, which is getting to be more and more of a well-oiled machine as this goes along. And that makes a real difference, especially in the sense that we, again, like we did back in June with the whole heat dome business, saw a real cross-section of folks. I mean, we see our regulars that we often would see in the winter or for things like that, folks outside or at risk in terms of their ability to have a roof over their heads, but also a variety of other folks from the community. And that's good. That's what we want to see. We want to reach out to as wide a base of people as possible who need this when they need it. And that worked. I think we're getting better also at a few other things as we go along. One, just to say good word about the folks upstairs at FBC, because one comes to the place we're physically in the basement, which helps. I mean, that assists in the cooling to begin with because we're below ground level. So we're off to a good start with that. Also because the building super, Ron Richter, who's a fascinating guy, who's lived a fascinating life. He's a former prison chaplain along with several other things. Ron's a great guy. Should sit him down sometime over a beer and talk stories. But he's kind of a wizard at getting the HVAC of this big old shipwreck of a building to go in the right direction. And that box that we have down there, he can get it pretty well chilled. which makes it both one of the physically larger footprints and one of the more effective locations that we've got in town to be able to do that kind of work. But also another thing that they've done is install washer dryer combo down in the basement there, which is a huge difference for us because one of the things we can offer at this facility is shower facilities, which is a real godsend for especially our neighbors outside, but for all sorts of people. Once again, got folks in apartment complexes, other things like that. Well, what we all know about living in apartment complexes is how often do appliances go out. So sometimes you got folks whose shower's knocked out where they are. They're waiting on the service guy to come in and do something about it. They can get in too. But having the washer dryer on site takes something that for us dealing with the linens, dealing with the towels, all of those sorts of things, a big kind of logistical to do going halfway across town to the laundromat, extra costs, other things like that. It becomes like washing dishes in a restaurant. We just send them to the back, get them done, get them right back out. That and the effectiveness of our logistics chain getting in fluids and food has really stepped up as we've done this three times now. And so that's all been great.
Thank you, Jeff, very much. The Yamhill County Gospel Rescue Commission could not be here today, but they had 5 over the 4 days. And Newburgh at Northwest Christian Church had 6. The Newburgh Emergency Center never did open due to lack of volunteers. In Newburgh also, we don't know the numbers ever at the library. That's also true of Mcminnville, so we never know how many went to those libraries to seek shelter and get water and such. So we can't count them in. However, that 133 number added to the 125 plus on the first event and then 50 plus on the second event takes us over 250 or more people that have been able to be served at these locations over the 3 events thus far. There could be a 4th event. We just don't know yet until the weather people, the weather gods let us know. 2nd Street Drop-In Center in Newburgh, we don't know those numbers. They were open 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, and I don't know what those numbers are. However, as we move forward, I will try to get those numbers. I think, and Linda Watkins, thank you very much for the messaging that your police chief was able to put out to all of Yamhill and Carlton area, and for him checking in, and the buddy up system seemed to work. I don't believe that you've had any sun problems with the heat or such. And I also thank Yvette Potter, who's the mayor of Yamhill, for sending me the information on the Washington County cooling centers as well, so that people in Yamhill or that area, Gaston, et cetera, might be able to be cooled down at one of those centers as well. Big thank you to Mcminnville City, to everyone that was involved in making sure that there was water at Wortman Park, at Lower City Park, and at Joe Dancer Park. I put up flyers on those water sources so that people would know where to go, because it seems logical if they're using the water that they might also need to be cooled down. All things went well. Thank you, Jeff Clayton and First Baptist, for staying open on Saturday when you were only set to do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We sure appreciate all of the volunteerism in Mcminnville and the donations that came in of water, Gatorade, oranges, food, including Encompass Yamhill Valley, who also purchased 20 pizzas on on Friday, so that the people at First Baptist Church would have a meal. I believe Jeff had it worked out so that he was able to get Thursday's meal from Third Street Pizza, and Friday's meal, Wednesday's meal from Third Street Pizza, Thursday's meal from one of our local citizens.
Papa Murphy's.
Yes,
Papa Murphy's chipped in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all those things came together and happened. One thing that Casey and I have really recognized is that we've got to find a consistent place in Newburgh that can open with volunteers. And I'm going to suggest to some people in Newburgh that maybe they do a news article on volunteerism in Newburgh, so more people know how to get in touch and be a volunteer. I'm not certain that just on Facebook that the volunteerism is as big as it could be if it was in newsprint and they had a phone number or an email address to actually do the volunteerism. This is also true of the West Valley. Even though the library was open in Willamina, that was pretty much it. And we need to find volunteers for the West Valley as well. That doesn't mean that we volunteer from Mcminnville or Newburgh. That means we find volunteers in that area that are willing to give of their time and their care to other citizens of those areas. Because we could have been open at a couple fire stations, but just did not have the volunteers to do such. So overall, I think we've done a great job over the 3 events. And thank you to Encompass, especially Casey Kula, Carrie Martin, Pauline Metoxen, Courtney Terry, and I hope I'm not leaving anyone out. Brian Young, you've been excellent to work with, and thank you for all that you do, like reaching out to Northwest Senior and Disability Services to make sure that those things occur, and also for reaching out to 211 info so that the information gets to them, and then people can either go by phone or by internet and get the information of where the cooling centers reside. I'd like to call on Brian now and get his input from the 3rd event. Brian, are you there?
Yes, I am here. Hi, sorry, I wanted to make sure that I turned my phone down so the distraction was gone. And sorry for being tardy. I was on another call or in another meeting. So yeah, thank you, Howie. You and your team make an easy wake to fill. You know, we're right behind you. Following your lead. So the efforts that you guys put forward for the community is very much appreciated, and it's awesome to work with. So this 3rd and final, or hopefully final, yeah, fingers crossed, right? Event went smooth. I think it's a culmination of putting the 2 previous cooling center incidents together and drafting or drawing off of the experience from those. There was a slight hiccup in the West Valley area, which did not have anything to do with the efforts locally. It was a Polk County issue that they advertised West Valley Fire as a cooling center location, but there was no communication from Polk County for whatever reason, not throwing spears or anything, but for whatever reason, no communication regarding that. So we had to scramble a little bit to try and get some local volunteers to sit there. And fortunately, it was an underutilized center, so it didn't make a lot of impact on us, but we were able to at least identify, hey, in the future, if we do identify that, the folks in my office can certainly work with Polk County and see what we need to do to mitigate that. So yeah, I think most of what we dealt with at this end was just communicating with the folks that these are the locations, sharing them with the patrol staff and making sure that if there was anybody that they came across that they had a list in front of them that they could even print out and hand out to folks to say, hey, if you need a cooling center, here you go. Since more often than not, they might come in contact with the folks needing the cooling centers in a face-to-face manner more than any of us. So that, I guess that's all I have for now. Again, thanks to everybody that's been involved in this. It's been a great effort.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Linda. Also, Linda Watkins, for donating those pet cages. We used 4 out of the 5 that you gave us. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Yes, we did. Thanks so much. We see a lot of guests with extra legs at our location. So thank you.
I think I've got a couple more too laying around. So that's what 20 years of rescue does to you. You have dog crates everywhere you look. But yeah, or if I don't, I can round some up. So let me know.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
And then it looks like Pauline has a question or a comment here.
I was just going to say that if anybody could round up bigger crates than what we had at FBC, that would be really helpful, because there were some rather cranky 4-legged friends who were larger than the crates that we had. And they weren't so much cranky, they were just kind of reactive, because there were some shorter, very reactive friends there. But if we could round up at least one bigger crate, that would be really helpful at FBC.
Well, I have a bigger crate that Linda also dropped off that I did not send there because it was so big. But I will make sure that Jeff receives that.
I've got 2 more that their wire is the problem. So they don't have the solid sides, but we can talk. Let me know.
Thank you.
And so that's all I have, but I'd certainly like to thank everybody for all of their endeavors to make this happen for a 3rd time. And I hope that we can go from here and go into winter doing the warming shelters as well, now that we have this team together. So thank you all very, very much for everything that you did. And thank you, City of Mcminnville. You're outstanding. Thank you so much. Scott, did you have something you'd like to say?
I just acknowledged, your group coordinates everything that's happening, Howie. And so a shout out to you just to allow you to, continue your good work. So thank you for the report.
Thank you, Scott, very much.
And I second Mayor Hill's comments too. Thank you so much.
You're also welcome. It's just been a blessing to me, even though it's hard work, to see the outcome and know 0 deaths that I've known of in Yamhill County across the board over these 3, because other areas have had hundreds of people perish from this. And so just glad that we could make this happen. And that's all I have, Casey.
And then Howard, I just wanted to ask, are there any other lessons learned that we need to take either into next year or into the next one, besides needing to really build out that volunteer infrastructure?
Yes, I think that we should probably have, due to COVID, the Delta variant, have another Zoom meeting with all of the cities to work out the logistics of being involved and what we can do to help them get where they need to be if they can't provide a cooling shelter. At least maybe they could provide an area that is a quick drop-in, like the fire departments did in Sheridan and Willamina quickly. So yes, I think that there's another Zoom meeting in the looming to make that happen. and I'm hopeful that we can get even Grand Ron to be involved with us, and Gaston as well. That's my take on it, Casey.
Awesome. That's super helpful, Howie. And speaking, before we go to Fritz, do you have time for me to do one little interjection? Okay, great. Speaking of Gaston and North County in particular, Emergency Management Young, can you give like a brief update on where the city of Yamhill's water situation is right now? Do you feel comfortable doing that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, for those of you not aware, the city of Yamhill is having water supply issues with their water coming from Turner Creek, which is where they draw their water for the city and 10 districts that they serve. Right as of this morning, they're pulling into intake about 300 gallons per minute, which is really a rate that maintains the levels that they have, or that they're able to just so they can have their reservoirs full, if you will. I think it would be a bad thing if they run into a deficit situation where they're using more than they can produce. So throughout the process, which happened or started about a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, they've implemented a couple of different measures. First was the level 2 water emergency, and then that escalated to a level 3, which enacted some outside water restrictions and really encouraged conservation methods be utilized in the city. And with the level 3 expansion of the level 3, that also included with the 10 water districts, who are obviously outside of city limits and outside of the general control of city council. But when it comes to water, I think that level 3 really sparked their ability to ask for and get the curtailment on the user side. They were able, I think yesterday, at the beginning of the day yesterday was the first day they were actually able to drop below 200,000 gallons in a 24-hour period, 200,000 gallons of usage. And that trend continued with a slight uptick over this last 24-hour period. So it looks like the residents in Yamhill are complying with those water restrictions and really taking this to heart. So that's good. Let's keep going on that, since we're probably about 6 weeks out from a wetter weather pattern. Days like today don't help when you get cloudy, and I think psychologically we all think, well, shoot, we're out of the woods now. No, we're not. So we'll continue to work on that. In some of the conversations that I've had with the incident commander, who is Chief Jensen from the Yamhill Fire District, I've learned a lot about water rights over the past couple weeks that I never thought I would know, but they're very complex and very detailed and driven by a lot of agencies at the state level. And I guess that's just a way that we have clean drinking water. So be it. One of the things that was floated around was the idea of maybe doing an intertie with it's the Joint Water Commission that supplies water to the city of Gaston, which would be the LA Water Co-op, I believe is the official name. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that entails, but certainly it's going to be a lot of representatives from Washington County, Yamhill County, the city of Yamhill, the city of Gaston, LA Water, all to talk about what it's going to take to maybe tie in together. And I think it's going to start with a conversation with Oregon, with the I'm gonna butcher this, Commissioner, the water rights department, whatever it is, I can't remember. Got too much going on. Anyways, the folks that deal with the water rights, and can the Joint Water Commission actually even supply water to the Yamhill community and not exceed their water rights? So all of these are really short term. Well, that one could be a longer term, but some of the things that they're looking at are really short term to get them through. I think it's going to take a deeper dive and a strategic outlook to really look at the mitigation projects that may come of this that need to come from this to avoid this in the next 10, 15, 20 years. So more to come on that. Commissioner Kula will be sitting in on the Board of Commissioners meeting on Thursday, obviously, and one of the agenda items will be the county looking at declaring a state of emergency or declaring a drought emergency for the county. That includes the City of Yamhill's incident. What that will do, if deemed appropriate, would free up or streamline some of the requirements and restrictions that revolve around water rights. So we'll see where that lands, and I look forward to getting this process rolling, and hopefully we can get some good traction in a good direction in Yamhill. I think I just about covered it. It's not all glamorous and glitzy, but it's a very serious matter. I've been involved in a few water incidences in my time as emergency manager, and we all get conditioned to going to the water faucet and turning it on, and water comes out, and it would be very discomforting if you go to your water and turn it on and nothing. It's a lot different than a power outage, I must say. So happy to take any questions if there are any.
And Brian, I think you got the perfect overview of the situation. So thank you for that. Oregon Water Resources Department.
Whew, thanks for the cover on that one, Commish.
I know too much about them. I've given them so much of my money over the years. I will say that.
I know you did say. Are you junior or senior water rights holder? I know you have water rights somewhere.
I have a 1936 water right, and then a groundwater registration, which is not a use it or lose it. It's a special category, pre-water rights. So and full disclosure, when the city of Yamhill was like, okay, what do we do? I was like, just so you know, I've got a well, but it's a long ways from Yamhill. And I think that Brian Young is right that this is a situation where we can do short term, but we also have a lot of long term work to do. And I think that regionalization of having different sources of water that all connect and we have agreements about is going to be a really important part of it. So thank you for learning a lot about this. The last one was the city of Amity's power outage and their water. So you now know all kinds of things, at least at a little bit of levels. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
I did want to check, are there any other questions for Brian about that situation? And I would say this is the perfect segue then into Fruitsagram, because the Senate has approved an infrastructure bill, and my hope is that lots of water issues can get folded into it, but you're the one who will at least be able to tell us yes, no, or wait.
Yeah, well, it is the federal government, so wait is the first piece. So yes, the Senate did pass. So one thing that is certain, the Senate passed an infrastructure bill that has a lot of money in it. I just want to go over some of the things that are in it, and then we'll talk about the process. So in the Senate package, there's $110 billion that'll go to roads, bridges, and other transportation projects. $25 billion for airports, and $66 billion for railways. There are $65 billion meant to connect for rural high-speed internet and rural broadband, which will be coming. $8 billion for Western water infrastructure. And I don't have a lot that I can say on that yet, but as that comes up, well, I'll definitely be letting you know. And there's pollution cleanup. Roughly $21 billion will go to cleaning and abandoned wells, mines, and Superfund sites. Inside the bill, there's also a $73 billion to update the nation's electricity grid, and within that is Senator Wyden's Disaster Safe Power Grid Act, which he introduced last October after the fires, encouraging companies to bury their lines and to protect them so that we don't have they don't cause wildfires in the future. couple other things that Senator Wyden did get into: $5 billion to help farmers, ranchers, and communities respond to drought, especially after the heat dome and this past one. 162 million for Klamath habitat restoration, $6 billion for wildfire mitigation, and then the broadband piece. So it goes. So it now goes to the House, and it's wrapped up with the budget bill, which the Senate passed the first part of the first step of the budget bill, which is kind of a general notional. This is what we want in the budget. It'll have to go to reconciliation. The House wants to do both. Doesn't want to take up the bill, or they're fighting over whether they should take up the bill, and until the Senate passes that bill also, the reconciliation bill. So this might be months before the House gets to it. It might not. It all depends. We went through a congressional directed spending process, formerly known as earmarks. Then the House went through two of those, one of which was for transportation projects, and one of them was their regular projects. In the House, so in Senate bill has none of those, none of the transportation ones, because we didn't do them. The House one has $5.7 billion for those projects, and that's another sticking point. Should they add those, and then it'll have to go back to the Senate or not. So the Senate's out until September 7th. The House, I think, goes back in next week to take up this bill, their infrastructure bill. They've got a lot of work to do before they will get to a point of actually voting. And then if it's a different bill, does it have to go back to the Senate? So it's months. I'm sorry, Casey. But there is what did I say?
Be ready, Fritz. We all got to be ready.
Yeah, managing expectations. I just don't want you to expect something that's not coming down the pike. $8 billion for Western water infrastructure, which is really important. In doing our congressionally directed spending, our earmarks, we had water projects and wastewater projects all over the state because we're just behind on it right now.
And Fritz and I talked about that there's water crises or soon to be crises kind of all over Oregon. So you're seeing that, and your colleagues are seeing that. Yeah, many cities, small cities are looking at their water system saying, well, we can fix it, but we're going to have to double our prices or the cost for the bills. Everybody's bill will double, and that's really difficult. I was just with the Amity city councilor, and he was saying that their ratepayers are just horrified by the prices that they're paying now, and that's just to pay off low interest loans from the USDA that I think your office helped them get. Yeah. Without that, they wouldn't have clean water. Yeah, I think it was $1.7 million for. Yeah, it looks like Mayor Watkins has a comment.
Yes. Okay. Come and talk to the Carlton citizens. We've been bumping their water rates up for the last 10 years in order to get our infrastructure done.
Right.
And, it's pretty high now, and they're screaming bloody murder. And we just bumped them up again on the sewer because of sewer projects that we've got. So we started in 2014 bumping those rates up. So at least we're able to get some stuff done. But yeah, nobody wants to raise water rates, and the time has come, guys.
Right. It looks like Councilor Menke has a question or comment too.
Just a comment. I went to a League of Oregon Cities, small cities recap on the legislation, and I was amazed at how many cities did get money for infrastructure. I mean, there were a lot, and a lot right around us too. So I was pleased to see that.
Right. It'll help catch up. So we've gone through the process. I believe Carlton did ask for with the Senate congressionally directed spending. It was a challenging process because they were kind of putting it together as building the plane as they were flying it. So, but next year when we start this process again, which will be in January, I'll work with Casey and we'll do a preliminary video or in-person briefing on what is needed and what what we're looking for and what are good ideas for projects, so we can help you to submit the best possible project.
And Fritz, there was part of it you learned was that it was really important for water projects to already be eligible and involved in the revolving loan. Can you address that a little bit so other people know, or
I can't.
change?
There's two funds, and I never can remember both of them, but they had to be in one or the other to be eligible to receive the money. So that I'm going to talk about that next week in the Water Summit. But I'll be prepared for that. So I mean, and what I want to let people know is if your project is not in that, work towards getting it in that so that it can be eligible.
There you go. That's a great setup. Are there other questions or comments for Fritz? All right, thank you. I really appreciate you just like getting it out there. Like, okay, here's the big summaries of dollars, and within that we can start all looking at where our projects can fit.
Exactly, and I'll continue to be on here to talk about if the process and when once it's passed. I mean, it's as far as I know, it's monies that have been sent out before, so it should be a fairly seamless way of getting money out. But I will continue to talk about this and what that process is.
That sounds good. Thanks, Fritz. And as you heard from Brian Young with the city of Yamhill, thinking like, well, should we tie into Hillsborough's water at Gaston? There's lots of possibilities for piping and so many good things, but so many ways of improving efficiency and also improving cooperation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd love to do our traditional roundtable then at this point. And I'm going to start off, since we haven't seen Mayor Hill in a little bit. Of Mayor Hill, what would you like, especially with no pressure, Councilor Menke here too, what would you like to share with the community?
Thank you, Commissioner. And again, thanks for those that have given reports to keep us up to date on things that are happening throughout the area. A couple of things that I just wanted to update on some of the things that we're working on. This week we have tremendous evening meetings and special work sessions. And so I just want to update. Last night we had a presentation on the fire district consolidation. And right now we're working with a consultant that we're looking at the cities of Dundee, Dayton, Lafayette, Amity, and Carlton, or what is called now New Carlton Fire District. We thought that was an interesting new name. And then Mcminnville and Mcminnville Rural. And we're looking at the possibility of coming together with a fire district and the cost benefits, the economies of scale. This process has been going on well over a year, and we had the final report last night. I think they've been to Carlton, or they're going to Carlton to do the same kind of roadshow with each of the potential districts that would come together. And then we will know by September 15th, those that want to continue the process and those that do not. And so just a little update from that perspective. Again, the whole intent is to have economies of scale, more firefighters and EMT on the ground than administrators, and some of those types of things. Last night, so that was an hour-and-a-half discussion last night. Last night we continued and went another hour-and-a-half as we're talking about with our joint budget and city council meeting, and we're looking at the American Rescue Plan investment discussion of some of the things that we might look at in using our ARPA dollars. Again, this is probably our third meeting that we've had along that, and we've included our budget committee because they wanted to be a part of that. And so, again, we're having discussions, we're putting priorities, lots of lots of opportunity, and again, even though we have a significant dollar amount, when you start spreading that thinly, it's not much. And so good discussions need to happen. I can tell you from a Mcminnville standpoint, we're more inclined to take it a bit slower and really understand the opportunities that are out there. We've earmarked the requests that may have other sources of money. We want to maximize our usage of the availability of grants and federal money and all those types of things before we start giving out the dollars from Mcminnville. Wednesday evening, we're going to be having a discussion led by our Planning Director Heather Richards on the missing middle housing codes. And this allows us then to look at our code structures so that we can do more innovative things in that missing middle market, or the missing middle housing. And again, that's a big area that the state's involved in. So those types of things are happening as we speak. A couple of things for those in Mcminnville. As you know, this summer we've been on a furlough program where the majority of our employees, with the exception of police, fire, and wastewater, have been on a furlough of 1 day a week, and most of those will end by Labor Day. So we're just a couple of weeks away, and then we will be back kind of full-time and being able to increase our services to our public. We have reached our goal of savings to close the budget deficit for this coming budget year by doing that. So again, I wanted to share that with folks. Just real quickly, the other thing that I wanted to share with this evening, we have a Mcminnville Water and Light Commission meeting, and there's a number of things that are on our agenda, but we are having a continuation of a public hearing to consider the electric rates moving down the road. And although we've cut that back a bit from what we initially were looking at, we still know that there's a need in the future to look at our electric rates. And so we're more inclined to do slow increases as compared to wait until we need it and jump it big. And so again, that will be the conclusion of our public hearing tonight. We'll be taking public testimony 5 o'clock, and you can go to Mac Water and Light to pick up the Zoom call information on that. And so I think that's a fair good report of where we're at. I can tell you that the Mcminnville Dine Out initiative has been working very well this summer, along with the farmers market. A lot of good activity downtown until the heat came. And then there's something that happens at restaurants when the heat comes. With all the heat coming from the stoves and everything, many of them closed down this last weekend. So we saw a tremendous less activity downtown. Nobody wanted to be out in 100-degree weather, and they couldn't cook and provide. And then on top of that, the few employees they do have, some of them weren't able to even come. So last week was kind of disastrous when it comes to the revitalization of the things that are happening downtown. But we've got all of our committees are doing some very good work. Our DEI committee is really going full steam ahead. We're very happy of having that up and going, and saying that we have representation from a broad spectrum of our citizens on the DEI committee. Our Economic Vitality Committee is going to be making a presentation to the council next Tuesday as to the thought of an innovation center out near the airport, out in that land that's between the airport and the hospital, that could drive a lot of good opportunities from an economic standpoint. But these are long-term, and these are kinds of the discussions that we've been having. So with that, I'll just see if anyone has any questions.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Are there questions for the mayor? Lots of good information. How about Councilor Meng?
Oh, well, I was just going to ask the mayor something. I texted him. Is Water and Light even considering any kind of water rationing or anything like that in Mac. I mean, I know we probably have plenty of water, but in view of the suffering of those around us.
We're not looking at we're not looking, Kelly, at any rationing because we've got pretty full capacity up in our reservoirs. We hold on to about 3.2 billion gallons up in our reservoirs, and we've seen a little bit of usage of that. At the very height of this summer, we were utilizing about 11 million gallons per day, and that's not even close to the capacity. Well, it's getting closer to the capacity of what we can produce. Typically, we're at a $10 million level, and so at Water and Light, what we're looking at doing is we're stepping up and helping some of our partner cities, Lafayette and Carlton. But the big thing is the cost of getting the pipes there. That's very costly. The cost of water is not as much as getting it to, and the infrastructure that needs to be made, and then that puts an additional burden on the cities. But as we build that capacity, it's there, and we can turn that on and off as there are needs, and we're willing to do that. Along with that 3.2 billion gallons up at the reservoir, we're perfecting our liens on the Willamette. We've got 3 liens or water rights on the Willamette, and one of them going back to it's not as far back as Casey's, but 1952, and then and so we'll be able to pull out of the Willamette once we perfect those and have our pumping stations and everything squared away. We'll be able to take approximately 20 million gallons per day out of the Willamette, and that is just a backup plan. So if we ever to have a big earthquake coming off the hill, we could then switch over to the other. So again, we've got this regional or countywide water grouping that we're talking to lots of people, but it's the infrastructure that costs. And if we could get dollars for some of that in ARPA dollars, it could move us along maybe. So.
Oh, well, 1952 was a very good year. What can I say?
Absolutely.
I'm totally partial to 1936, but for no reason other than mine. But sorry,
Yes,
go ahead.
well, I can sympathize. Just briefly, my area of intensity is the affordable housing, and we are currently working on a proposal to present to City Council, I think the 19th of November, on the construction excise tax, which will provide some funding, we hope, for money for a land trust and some other things. And we're also looking at code changes for new annexations that would allow a certain percentage of the housing to be low income, kind of restrict it and into that situation. And we're hopeful that the council will look favorably on this. So far, we've had some fairly positive words about it. So.
Well, very cool. Thank you, Councilor. I just want Mayor. I want to ask Mayor Watkins to share. But Pauline Metoxen has had her hand up for a little while now. So I apologize that I didn't notice that. Pauline.
I just wanted us to be able to have a conversation about COVID specifically within our houseless community. And I don't know if this is the time, or maybe you want to do it later in the meeting. I have some information to share, and we need to have some discussion at some point today.
Yes, definitely. Well, let's have Mayor Watkins share from the city of Carlton, and then we'll go to that.
Okay.
Okay, well, Carlton hasn't been in the news much lately, but we've been busy. Let's see, we've replaced approximately 16,000 feet of our transmission line in the last, yeah, I know, it's great. This is so exciting. This came, the funding to do this came from a grant actually, I think it came out of state lottery funds a couple of years ago. So with that and dredging of our reservoir, we're looking at stabilizing, and kind of increasing our water capacity. In the meantime, we do have a contract with Mac Water and Light, and we are, as of August 4th, receiving water from Mcminnville. We're a little concerned about Yamhill, needless to say. They did reach out some people up there did reach out to us, and there was really nothing that we can do because it's not our water right now to commit to anything. So that was the best we could do. And I think there's a lot of conversation going on about how we can help, or if we can. We're very happy with the fact that our the usage of our citizens in town here was down. And I don't have the exact number, but it was actually down from previous years as far as water usage. So we were very, very happy about that, because it seems to be difficult to get people to understand that the West doesn't have unlimited amounts of water. We never did, and we certainly don't this year. So that's a concern. Let's see, what else? Oh, so the reservoir dredging, and we're working on that. Carlton Crush will be on September the 11th, so mark your calendars, please, people. Come up and visit us for that. Our city manager has started working with SEDCOR to, and this is what's great about these roundtables, because I found out about the SEDCOR sidewalk program through one of our roundtables several months ago, and we grabbed right onto that and picked up on it. And so we're working with SEDCOR to start working on a pilot sidewalk replacement project here, and depending on how it works out, we're hoping to see it going on and moving ahead. There's a whole pile of stuff, but we're getting low on time, and I want to leave room for Pauline, so I'll shut up now. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mayor. It's important to hear, so I appreciate it. And then Pauline, do you want to, or Howie, do you want to lay out the situation with COVID and neighbors who are houseless? I did want to note too that today was yet again a record number of new cases in Oregon, and we're at a record high for both hospitalizations for COVID and ICU beds occupied by people who have COVID. So with that context, Pauline.
Well, I became aware that we had an exposure at the city council meeting last Tuesday, the 10th. I became aware over the weekend, and I talked with Gary at Public Health on Sunday. I let Claudia know on Monday, and I emailed Chief Scales on Monday that there had been an exposure. Since then, I have learned that there are now 4 more cases that have stemmed from that city council meeting. And just before this meeting started, I became aware that we now have 3 confirmed cases, Howie, within the car camping program. So it has finally hit our houseless population. And my concern is it's going to spread like wildfire. So I think we should talk about if there's anything we can do. Unfortunately, Mayor Hill is not here anymore, but
Yes, he is. He's still here.
Yeah, I'm still on, Pauline. I can tell you this morning, our city recorder was in the room, and she's being tested. Today she was tested, and we don't have the results yet, but we're checking those that were administrating the city council room, and indeed she was in contact with them. So we'll see what happens from that perspective.
I tried to let them know, because as soon as I knew the individual had been at the city council meeting. But since then, there have been 4 more cases of people specifically who were at that council meeting. So that's a concern. And now we have it within the houseless people who are car camping. So.
Well, thank you for getting a hold of us so as quickly as you could, because I think it's critical. I can tell you, in the newspaper ran this story also, that we had an outbreak of COVID in our fire department. And again, in close contact, that's where it spreads very quickly. And so, but we've worked ourselves through that right now. And there was only 1 hospitalized out of that group of 7. And the last I heard was still in the hospital.
Pauline, could you talk about the amount of people that specifically one of our houseless persons was around over the week prior, please?
Well, it's disconcerting because the source has very far-reaching fingers within the community at large, but specifically that houseless community. So not only were they at the city council meeting, they were within the courts, they were out and about within the community delivering mail and other items. And where else were they?
At the library.
At the library. I have a whole list of where they were and exposing people. So that's kind of a problem.
And some of these people did have the Johnson and Johnson vaccination, however.
Right. So, and is not uncommon within that population, the sickest of the individual refuses to accept medical treatment and continues to expose people because they have a revolving door in their home and people come and go at all hours of the day and night. So the exposure just continues.
And what did Gary at Public Health have to say, Pauline?
He pretty much told me we have limited resources, we're confined by HIPAA, and everybody, it's on everybody to do the right thing. And I tried to explain to him that there's a different thought process within this population, that what we might think is odd or different or inappropriate is commonplace and doesn't stand out as the wrong thing to do for this population that is so intermingled and entwined. But he seemed to think that their resources were limited enough that there wasn't a lot they were going to be able to do, which is unfortunate because this is going to spread like wildfire.
May I ask a question here?
Sure.
Please, Mayor.
So how for the rest of the community, what do we need to do as far as informing our populations or as far as helping monitor or control this? Is there something that we can do as far as talking to our folks, or are we just need to continue with our general safety measures?
I don't know the answer to that. I was hoping that this group could collectively maybe come up with some ideas.
Yeah,
Is- I'm
Pauline, no, well, go
assuming-
ahead, Mayor.
I'm assuming it's creeping out. It's spreading out. If you've got someone who is ill or is a carrier, I don't even know how to best to describe it, who is contacting people, we're looking at the octopus, the tentacles coming out.
That's my concern. And I know now of 4 cases that have stemmed from that city council exposure.
Are they mostly houseless folks?
They're all houseless folks.
Okay.
So
But
that's my concern.
But I'm assuming others besides houseless were exposed
Well,
at that meeting.
I would assume so. The chief of Mac Police was in the room. There was the recorder and some other city employees in the room that I could see on the video. So there was that exposure. Those are more easily contained. The ones that's going to be difficult to contain is the creeping out in the houseless community because there's nowhere to quarantine them.
Yeah.
And Pauline, I mean, we do have the ability to pull in YCAP and the motel sheltering project, especially as Project Turnkey opens up, right? Because they're continuing to reserve that suite of rooms as well.
Okay. Well, that might be good to know.
Yeah, I'll
Because
check in with
we also-
Alexandra.
We also have now 3 confirmed cases within the overnight car camping program.
And it does seem like we could, and I'm just thinking, Pauline, about your comment about somebody who continues to move around from facility, like, you know, going to the courts. It seems like while the instant tests are not as accurate, it seems like having some of the instant tests available at some of these locations could be very helpful.
That would be good, because I would imagine this individual would have tested positive the night of the city council meeting had they been tested. They had someone else in their household that was confirmed already prior to going to that city council meeting.
Yeah, it seems, and I will check in with public health about that, because I know that at some point the governor made available the whatever the short turnaround time, the instant tests to rural communities, and I just don't know what the status of that is. Because the city of Mcminnville, for example, Councilor Menke might appreciate having those prior to attendance.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan, actually. I just sent a text to Tom Tankersley for the information for the soup kitchen, but yeah, obviously these people need to report as soon as possible to YCAP or county health to maybe get them into some form of the hoteling program or something. That would be very helpful. So we'll do our best to get some information out.
For sure, that would be very helpful. Pauline, do you have other thoughts? That I can think of the getting them access to the motel sheltering project, and then having those instant tests at some of these gatherings where the public needs to be able to attend to provide, you know, public comment or thoughts on agenda items, but we really can't have somebody infecting other people. The courts seem like another good example of that.
Well, and I hadn't thought far enough ahead to think about all the meal programs. We certainly should notify them that it.
You really need to do that as soon as possible. Like I said, I just notified Tankersley because he's on the soup kitchen board.
Yeah, because that's where they all congregate. So all of the places, the shelters and every place, we probably should make a mass notification to, because it will spread really quickly amongst that houseless population.
Howie, yeah, I was just about to say, Howie, what are your thoughts? There you go.
We've been trying to prevent this from happening for at least 10 months, maybe more. Unfortunately, this variant is strong, and it hit. And now we're in the dilemma of what do we do from here? It's hard to get somebody to stay at home if they don't have a home. So therefore, where are they going to be? We need to get in touch with YCAP and find that out as soon as possible. But we need to get the word out quickly, because we don't want one person showing up to St. Barnabas to pick up a to-go box and giving it to that crew, and then them passing it on to other people without knowing they have it yet. That's my biggest concern, is people not knowing. The second thing is, I have to ask you, Casey, are there quick turn tests available right now? Because I've heard that certain areas don't have those quick turn tests currently.
Yeah, I'll find out as soon as we're done here. So my job, well, some of my jobs will be connect with Alexandra about space and motel sheltering, and I'll connect her with you or with Pauline, Howie, since I don't know who the person is. And then the second will be to find out whether, I think it's the Abbott Labs Binax Now, I think that's the name of the quick test, see whether they are something that public health can, essentially deploy to some of these facilities and group settings.
Well, as you all know, this was the vulnerable population that we tried to get as many people to go to the free vaccination clinics as possible. However, they have their own lives and their own thoughts on all of this. And it became very apparent to me when only one person showed up for a flu shot that this was going to be a hard sell to our houseless community. And now we're in the midst of that mess that we didn't need.
Yeah, you're right, Howie. Yeah, and thank you for caring about them so much and advocating for folks who really lack a voice and also are really challenged at times. Pauline?
I think the other piece is, this population, as well as a lot of other people, live so deeply into survival mode that they often don't see any other options. The individual I talked to just before this meeting started, I said, you need to quarantine. Well, we're trying, except, when we need things, we have to go out and get them. It's like, that's kind of a problem. But they're so far into survival mode that their whole thinking about all of this is very different, which makes it really dangerous for spreading.
And we still have emergency manager Brian Young with us. So Brian Young might actually know about quick test kits. Or he may be here with us in spirit. Oh, no.
No, I'm here. I apologize. I'm trying to multitask here and got a bunch of stuff going on. I missed the part on that I'm supposed to put some input on. I apologize.
Yeah, no, I understand I'm doing too many things at once as well. The question was, does the county have the quick diagnostic tests, or do we have access to them? And that's specifically for folks who are houseless and might be, or folks who might not know that they are they're sick, and then they're coming into facilities like the courthouse or meal programs or city council meetings.
Okay, I think for any test, we don't have any tests in emergency management and haven't ordered any for public health support in a long time, because ultimately I think those, as they became more available, public health started ordering them directly. So public health probably is the one that would have access to those instant type tests. So as far as folks going into other facilities, that's where facilities are going to have to be, or those folks that are going in there are going to have to follow that facility's, masking mandates and things like that. I think that's about all I could add there. We wouldn't have anything from emergency management ourselves.
That sounds good. And I'll just reach out to public health to find out kind of how we can coordinate with some of these things like the courts and like the city. Mayor Watkins, you're still unmuted. Do you have any additional thoughts?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I'd.
It's just my signal to call on you. That's all. So that's the dangerous thing. Pauline, Howie, any additional thoughts? We can make some progress on this, I think. But thank you for being very aware of it.
Last thoughts for me are, I wish that everybody would get their vaccination so that we could stop this mess, period. I really believe that we are in a precarious situation now. Unfortunately, there are people that even if you lead them to water, they won't drink. So I hope that we can reach out with the knowledge that the houseless community is in dire straits right now, and that it can get worse, and that it can transfer to our typical citizenry as well, and that we all need to be safe. I hope people will wear their masks. I hope they'll do 6 feet of social distancing. I hope that they'll wash their hands. I hope that they'll go get their vaccinations, period.
Great, thank you, Howie. And then Pauline.
I just want to know if you, Casey, and Howie will stay on the call and talk to me about one other question after this meeting.
I can certainly do that. We'll need to make sure that Mcminnville Community Media drops off.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any closing thoughts from folks?
Well, I can take a hint.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm teasing. I don't have any closing thoughts. Just I agree with everything you and I've been saying. It's so frustrating. Just wish that we can get it figured out. So you all have a good week, and we'll see you again.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so I echo Howie's thoughts. Get vaccinated if you can. Wear a mask. We are on a really precarious moment here with a hospital system that is very much taxed, and hospital employees who are very taxed in their work. So please keep them in mind. Cancel plans. I was just in 2 meetings with Congresswoman Bonamici, and she insisted that everybody, even outside, wear their masks. And it was inconvenient and awkward, and we had to shout through our masks, but we all still got to see each other and work on projects together. And we really can do that, and it can be temporary. All right, stay safe out there, everybody. Wear your mask, get vaccinated if you can. All right, we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.